It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Monday, January 1st, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that is wishing everybody a happy new year.
Happy New Year, everybody.
We're going to get into the Flyers versus the Kraken and Flames, talk World Juniors, and our Nemesis of the week.
Your Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here as always with Russ Cohen, who's on all your favorite social media apps at Sportsology. We are at Locked On Flyers on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Twitter as well. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit fanduel.com/lockedon to get started. We are over on YouTube or on the SiriusXM app or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Subscribe to get our latest episode as soon as it's available here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Russ, not a great continuation to the road trip thus far. This weekend was a little rough, losing to both the Kraken, that one in overtime, and then straight out in regulation versus the Flames. And I think, from a lineup perspective, this illness thing is really starting to be a burden, not just for the Flyers, but I think around the league. There's been some issues with it. Carter Hart was sick for all that time. And, we had talked about Ersson battling dehydration and Hart having to come back in. Then Travis Konechny was also sick and but came back into the game against Calgary.
Yeah, it was interesting. Konechny really did battle through this whole road trip. I'm not sure he should have played against Calgary. I know he had a couple of scoring chances. He's always going to have scoring chances if he's on the ice, but I always think about the long term with him. He's an injury plagued guy at times, and sometimes you have to tap a guy on the shoulder and say, "Hey, take a rest. You got a couple of days off here. Might be better for you." But they didn't do it. He really, gutted it out. I appreciate that. But again, at some point, we have to look at this Flyers culture. And this is way before John Tortorella, where guys will just play until they've got nothing left. And then all of a sudden they're hurt and they're out for a while. And we've been seeing this for years. I mean, almost as long as I've covered the team. And so that's something where I think at some point it would be good if Danny Briere dug into that. It's not to say guys should, ask out because they're soft. It's just, I think there's a delicate balance there.
Yeah, and I think that something that happened in both games was, maybe it's partially due to the travel. People are sick, the holidays, it's a whole thing. But there was definitely a let up defensively in both games.
Oh, yeah.
And I think especially I think in the Kraken game, it was very apparent that it went from like one period of really good play for the Flyers to like then getting overwhelmed to some degree. I mean, you look at the statistical charts for that game and it's like Flyers, Kraken,
Well, I mean, so here's another potential strategy. If you want guys to block every shot, then you really should be rotating in and out more defenders. Like you just should. And meaning, so that means, yeah, even, I would bring up even another young guy, and if that takes the place of a forward, so be it. Because these guys are not robots. Like, how many blocks can you handle? And you could see that it's probably taken a toll on a few of them.
Yeah, I would say so. And I would also say that, you look at, especially, my goodness, the late third period and the overtime in the Kraken
Yeah,
game, and then the third period of the game against the Flames.
yeah,
There was definitely some scrambly stuff happening in front of the net. People were just not as positionally sound, I think, because there was some desperation due to exhaustion, I
yeah.
think, related to the style of play that they had. And thus, like, guys were being left open. And that's how the
Mhm.
Flames won this one, right?
Yeah, I think so. And look, I mean, the Flames hadn't played, I guess they said in like 2 games, 2 days or something like that. So clearly the fresher team, but still, you could have taken advantage of their rust. They didn't enough, maybe. And I don't think that rust lasted for long. It was just, hey, look, Urson played great. Now he
Yeah.
could have, he could have probably, a lot of other goalies would have probably given up 4 or 5 earlier. But to play with Urson with the strap, I know it's easy for the broadcast to say, "Hey, look, he's got a broke." Listen, you can't take off your mask. You cannot do it. And Tortorella knew it. That's why he didn't argue it. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's a young goalie mistake. I get that the strap's broken, and all you can do is just get their attention, but you can't take it off yourself. You can't do it.
I know. It was, it was actually really funny because Scott Hartnell was very clearly trying to make a Taylor Swift reference about
Yeah.
"Shake It Off,"
Yes.
and JJ just, like, it was went straight
Went
over
right
his
over his
head.
head. He didn't get it.
I know. I
That's
was
great.
dying
Yeah, I
during
laughed
that
at that.
that whole thing, but, yeah, I do think that he overall played a really excellent game, and, I thought Carter Hart played great against Seattle too. I think that
He did.
it's just like, it was just defensive positioning that really led to the goals against in both games, I would say.
Well, and I also think we're getting to a point now where are you really going to keep this fourth line intact? I don't know. Are you really going to keep Cam Atkinson, keep him out there, even though he's struggling mightily? Like, there is supposed to be an earning of the ice time here. And at some point, Cam needs to sit. Like, it's not a negative. It's just, hey, he needs a day off for sure, a game
Yeah.
off where he could watch from the press box and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I've been thinking a lot about that. If, he should sit a game. And part of me agrees with you wholeheartedly that I think, like, he does need to kind of just have a day to get it together. I think Torts was probably hoping the Christmas break would be that for him.
Right.
And I also have this nagging feeling in the back of my head about what happened with Kevin Hayes last season. And I do not want a repeat of that. Now I understand the relationship between Torts and Cam Atkinson is
He's a lot
much
better.
different.
Yeah.
It's a lot better and much different, but I just don't want it to get to be a pattern and then develop this schism that,
Mhm.
like, causes problems. So partially, like, I just want him to work through it, but also we gotta figure out a way to get him going and figure out that fourth line situation because I know Lawton's on the fourth line and Paling's moved up now, and he actually had that really great play
No,
on the
Paling's look
Delorier.
good. I mean,
Yeah,
I appreciate Ryan Paling's play right now. It's actually as good as I've seen it in a while.
yeah, unfortunately, putting Scott Lawton on that fourth line, we've talked about it, it's not good for him.
It's a
He's
black
also
hole.
not gr Yeah, it's a black hole, and he's only really standing out when he's on the penalty kill,
Right.
um, which, of course, happened again in the Kraken game.
Yeah.
But I think that, he's also struggling at the faceoff dot,
Yeah.
um, and, especially in the game against Seattle, Lawton was the only one who was really losing faceoffs consistently in that game, and so I just feel like there's gotta be a better spot for him too, and, that's why I think some shakeup could or should happen, and they did do that at the top a little bit too, I think
A little bit.
partially to get Atkinson going, but I don't know. The thing is, like, there's still so much good here that it's hard to, like, wanna tear things apart entirely.
Sure. I mean, I get that. But 2 losses in a row or 2 losses in a row. It doesn't matter if you got points or not. Um,
Yeah.
what we're noticing in play is what we're noticing in play. Look, John was not happy tonight on the bench. Whatever he says post game, if he doesn't say he wasn't happy, he's not being honest because he wasn't happy. So, you look at it and you say, all right, there are times where you have to have resets during a season. I mean, there's another big thing we'll talk about, the black hole of a power play that needs a reset for the whole year, the whole 2023 calendar year. I don't, you know, I don't know if it's going to be better in 2024. I see they're trying some different things. Again, my answer to all of that is you need results. You
Yep.
need results, and guys have to have like specific roles so they know what they're doing all the time. Like what Konechny was doing was great, and then after that one, as an example, I'm like maybe that second one, but then after that, it went back into a jumble again.
Yeah, and, so far the only thing that they've done that they've sort of stuck with to make changes is put Zamula at the point for the past
Right,
several games,
which
and
is good. That's fine.
yeah, it's worked so far, at least, to a small degree. So, maybe there's hope. Maybe, that New Year's resolution will be the one that gets fulfilled.
Maybe.
But we'll see. There's a little bit more to talk about with these couple of games to wrap it up. And then had a very exciting day at World Juniors. So we want to get into that, and we'll do that coming up next.
The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get 150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's 150 bucks in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is easy to use, and there's so many different ways to bet, like live same game parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and more. And I got to tell you, right now, coming into the last week here, take the New England Patriots over the New York Jets because it could be Bill Belichick's last game with the Patriots. So I have a feeling he's going to pull out all the stops. So visit fanduel.com/locked on and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
On tomorrow's show, of course, we'll have Phantoms Tuesday and preview the matchup against the Oilers. And we will be answering your mailbag questions later this week. So make sure to get those questions in. You can email us at lockdownflyers@gmail.com, send us a message on Twitter, or comment over on our YouTube channel. Russ, continuing the conversation on the power play, I think that you look at the power play situation, but you also look at that 6-on-5 situation where, the Flyers scored a couple of goals 6-on-5. We talked about that specifically
Yep.
last week. And that's why I bring it up, because it was something, you said you don't want them to pull the goalie too early. They pulled the goalie too early,
They really
in
did.
your,
I mean, I get that they got a
yeah,
couple of goals, but this was early. This was a game where you had a hard time gaining control of the puck. All right, you
yeah.
made the score close there for a little while, but it just, to me, it was like I said, I'm glad that Brink and Zamula got goals. That was great. But maybe everybody liked the scramble at the end. Okay. But again, at 3:28, I get it. I get it. They had a power play, but I didn't like it.
Yeah, I mean, I I didn't love it, but I do think that the result was mostly there. I just think, again, it was the defensive side of things, the
Right.
coverage, and that was the problem we had with it. It wasn't that it wasn't the
Yes.
right thing to do. It
No,
was
no,
that
it's the
the
defense.
Flyers, yeah, it was the defensive side of things, and I felt so bad. I think it was York that like fanned on the clear, which kind of led
No,
to
Tippett, I think.
or Tippett,
Yeah, it
sorry.
was Tippett.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, that, I think if that had been different, maybe the score would have ended up differently, but, I just think defensively, they're not strong enough in that situation, to have it play out well. Like, I wasn't worried about the offensive side of things, that's
No,
for
I mean,
sure,
they
and
have guys that definitely could score. I mean, there's no question about it, but they couldn't stop them from scoring either. They gave up an empty net or two.
yeah, yeah, I think so. Just definite momentum issues in these couple of games, and I think that's something, especially when you're facing the Oilers next. That's something they're gonna have to be more consistent with. Is like an even level of intensity throughout the entire game, especially on the defensive
You do have
side
to
of
worry
things.
about a home letdown too, because they've been better on the road lately than at home. And so now you do have to kind of really rally the troops at home because things were great on the road for a while. Now they sort of have petered off a little bit. I feel like you got to worry about a home letdown a little and you got to really, get on them. But again, there's not going to be a ton of practice time because like New Year's Day, nobody's going to do anything. And I'm not sure, when they'll practice after that.
Yeah, we shall see, but we will be talking about those Edmonton Oilers, like I said, on tomorrow's show. In the meantime, World Juniors keeps trucking along. It's been a very exciting tournament, I would say. Some really interesting results, and we are now down to the quarterfinals, and they're officially set. But it took until the end of the last game of the round robin to figure that out. We have Sweden facing Switzerland, Team USA against Latvia, Canada versus Czechia, and Slovakia versus Finland. And yeah, last couple of days, very exciting. Both Canada and Team USA getting a little bit of a scare in their second to last games, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Canada really has some issues. They do. I mean, Germany really put a scare into them, and there were some weird things that went on in that game too. Like there was Canada didn't think that Connor Geeky when he checked, I think it was Schindler. Look, he's 6'4", Schindler's 5'9", whatever, but he hit him high in the head. And I give Bob
Yep.
McKenzie great credit because like Jeff O'Neill's on the panel, and he's like, look. If this is the NHL, it's a clean hit. Well, first thing, Jeff, it's not. It's international
Yeah, the
rules.
rules are different.
And McKenzie clearly said that's a hit to the head. It's the right call. So he didn't pull any kind of, if this were the NHL or anything else. And that's why Bob is Bob, because he's right. Now, Geeky has to understand when he's lining a guy up like that he is that much bigger. And he's got to hit him in the chest. So that's something. And then there was a high stick that happened to Germany that wasn't called. I don't know. We're
Yep.
not even sure if blood got drawn or not. Nothing was called, and then Canada got a goal on it. So that was a weird game. But I give the Germans tremendous credit. They really put it to them for a while, and then Canada figured it out.
Yeah, they did, but not before they got shut out by Sweden, who also had shut out the Germans. Like
Yeah.
Sweden's playing real well in this
No, they're a real
tournament.
threat to win it all. As I mentioned early on, there's no question about it. I did know that Finland was going to play them real hard. I wasn't shocked that Finland was going to beat them, even though they had played poorly early on. They sort of grouped themselves. They weren't that bad, but the Swedish team is really good. The defense is great. The way they move the puck, they have scorers like Lekaramaki. They've got a lot of talent. Olgren's great, Edstrom.
Yeah.
So they're hard, and they've got the home crowd behind them. And generally, when Sweden has a pretty good team in the home crowd, a lot of times they do win gold. So even though we love the U.S. team, Sweden's a real, real, real big threat.
Yeah, I think so. And of course, Team USA had a little bit of a scare against the Czech team, where it had to go to the shootout in order for Team USA to win that one. But they did. So a win's a win in this
A win's a
tournament.
win. It's funny. Czechia did to Team USA what I thought Slovakia was going to do.
Exactly.
They were out battling them outside the dots because they were getting them outside the dots, and then all of a sudden things were changing because the U.S. strategy was to keep everything inside the dots. So, that changed a little bit, but yeah, the U.S. got through it. I still think they could be better on the power play. I still think the BC line could be better. Like they've
Yeah,
had good moments and they've
agree.
had moments where they're not doing a lot. Really, the third line is the first and third lines are really what's fueling them. And Lane Hudson does seem to be picking up some steam now as the tournament rolls on,
Absolutely.
and that's good because he was a little slow out of the gate and people were kind of killing him. And then you saw like Habs fans online defending Lane Hudson. Listen, he's fine. But I think
Yeah.
he is starting to, things are starting to drop for him, and that'll help the U.S. in the big games.
Yeah, and I think, that decisive win over Slovakia 10-2, it was pretty even a few minutes into the second period, but then USA just took over. And I think that was an important style of win for them going into the quarterfinals.
Yeah, and I give McGroarty great credit because he was redshirted when I was in camp, but they knew he would be able to play. But he had a concussion or something that was upper body that was bad that kept him out of a bunch of college games. And now I'm worried about Snuggerud because he wasn't in the lineup, and I don't know if he's injured or not. He was playing great. Like Snuggerud was a big
He
factor.
must be hurt. He
So
must be hurt.
thinking he might be, and so we have to see now where that leaves them because that's a big cog for them.
Yeah, Cutter Gauthier got a goal finally in that
Yes.
game against Slovakia. I'm sure that just like a big weight off his shoulders, but he's got a goal and 7 assists in the tournament, which is
Yeah.
4th overall in points. So it's like nothing to sneeze at. And he's
No.
been great with the playmaking, which is something he's good at.
Yeah, no, I think people are surprised, but he is a good playmaker. He always had good passing ability and good vision in him. He was losing some board battles early on. I think that's gotten a little better. I think his
Yeah.
defensive zone coverage has gotten a little better. So he's another one. But the other thing he has to work on in the second half of college season, like Cole Caulfield, he needs more angles on his shots because in college they may be dropping, but in this tournament where you have some of these
Like elite goaltenders. Yeah.
really elite goaltenders, and it's not dropping as much.
Yep. I agree with that. 100%. Oliver Bonk is, with somewhat limited ice time, about 16 minutes per game, but he has 3 assists in the tournament, which is pretty good considering he's like third pairing on that team for the most part. And unfortunately, Alex Ciernik was out. He has an assist in the tournament, but
Yeah,
he got hurt in their game against Norway and wasn't even in the game where they played Team USA, which was such a bummer because I wanted to
yeah,
see like 2 prospects against,
yeah.
playing against each other. But alas, that was not to be.
Although sometimes you don't want to see um, teammates battling because I saw teammates battling from different countries and they're beating each other up. And so, like, you do wonder when they're going to settle those differences, someday in the camp. So sometimes that happens too. And that's a little weird to see.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, I think it's been a really fun tournament. It picks back up again with the quarterfinals tomorrow. So we will check in again later this week. And it's Monday, it's the new year. So we still will make room for a Nemesis. And we're doing that coming up next. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel over on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering all the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today over on YouTube and subscribe. And I don't know, Russ. It is the new year, so we may need to have like something special going on here, and I live in New York,
I like
and
it.
there's tons of these going around with the
Yeah.
glasses. For those listening, I'm wearing those 2024 sparkly, flashy glasses that you see all those people for New Year's Rockin' Eve. I think that we talked about Nemesis last week. You mentioned it at the top of the show that the team needed a reset. That was exactly what we talked about last week as our Nemesis. Didn't quite work out that way
No.
so far. So I got 2 nemesis this week. I'll give you one, then we'll get into my other one. But Alberta, it's got to be Alberta. With Calgary being a problem, we're going to face them again at home later next weekend, and and Edmonton. So, I'm nothing. It's nothing personal, Alberta. I've been there many times. I enjoy it.
I've never been
But
actually. Well, no, I
yeah,
shouldn't say that. I was in Edmonton. Never mind.
yeah.
I haven't been to Calgary. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah, I've been there like 3 or 4 times, and I enjoy it. So, yeah, nothing personal. Got lovely friends there, but Alberta, you're on my list this week.
That's interesting. What's on my list is there's a lot of stuff going around about the new trophy that's going to happen in the Winter Classic game. TNT
Mm,
has a trophy. I think they're calling it like the Cocoa Cup or something, and it's shaped like a coffee cup, and then on a trophy. I don't mind it. Um, some people are calling it gimmicky. Like, look, every trophy is a little gimmicky unless it's like a championship, a true championship trophy, right? But I think there is a way to have fun with some trophies in some events. Like, look, I made fun of the Pop Tart Bowl because the Pop Tart Bowl had like
right.
two.
Oh
I
my
just said it
God.
was tacky. It was tacky. That's all. It was like it was
Yeah.
like Five Below, right? But I don't mind what TNT has done here with this trophy. So I'm good with it. I know some people don't like it. So my beef is with the people that don't like it. Hey, you're the same people that say that the Winter Classic stinks and it shouldn't happen. There's too many of them. So just go away.
Yeah. Yeah. My other nemesis this week is New Year's related, again, hence the
Yeah,
glasses here. But I feel like the age of New Year's resolutions should be over. Like, it's just too much pressure to put on
you're
yourself.
setting yourself up to fail. That's my problem.
Yeah, and I think that you should like just setting goals for small wins on a regular basis is the best approach to take. Like getting a lot of small wins is better than like maybe one giant win
Right.
that is like at risk because it's just too much. So like take it easy on yourselves this year, people, and just keep your life manageable and take care of yourself. That is my personal advice to
Yeah,
you
I
in
mean, look, every year
2024.
I could say, look, I could lose 10 pounds. Every year I could say that, right? And then at some point I'll fail, right? Every year I could say, I can be in a little better shape. And then my Apple phone will say, hey, you walked like, I don't know, a little bit less than last year. Every year, you could do this so many times. And I don't remember what age it was, but I just decided to stop beating myself up with this and saying, I'm going to do this better. I'm going to do that better. It's like, you know what? I'm just going to do the best I can all the time. And that's it. And that's all I can do.
Yep. Yep, I agree that that is the way to go, and I think that's a good attitude for the Flyers to have
Yep.
as well in this new year, and that, I continue to work hard. Nobody says
Yeah.
they don't work hard, and, do the best you can,
Do your
improve
best.
where you
That's it.
can, do your best, and, that's all we can ask of you right now, and I think that, looking ahead, the future for the Flyers is pretty bright, and I think that, this is a reminder to myself as much as anybody to
Yeah, you
not get
just got to
bogged.
reset your brain. Like when you're watching a World Junior,
Yeah,
you just say, okay, there's Cutter Gauthier. When you look at Mitchkov's numbers, you say, okay, but you have to understand that's years down the road. We don't know what's going to happen with the finish of this season. It could be a fluke, it may not, but you still got to stay the course because you want to
yep,
be better for a long time. You don't want to have like one good year and then two or three bad ones again. So it does take some discipline in your brain. It does.
yeah, and, like, not get too caught up in the ups and downs of the day to day.
Right.
Think more about the long term, and, we're gonna talk about the day to day here, but, we also wanna keep track of the ups and downs, and, apparently my cat is very interested in this
Oh,
too,
yeah.
for those of you
She likes
watching on
blinking lights.
YouTube. She likes to, get involved in all of this as well. But that will do it for today's show. Once again, Happy New Year, everybody. I hope everybody has a great day watching the first day of the new Professional Women's Hockey League, the PWHL, and the Winter Classic. We'll be back tomorrow. Have a great day, everyone.